Welcome to the webinar on SAFE, the Surrey Anti-Gang Family Empowerment Program. This is part of, obviously, the City of Surrey presenting this, which we're really excited about. It's hosted by the Canadian Municipal Network on Crime Prevention, and it's part of the 40 Days Safer Cities Challenge. And I think we're ready at that point in time of the presentation. So I hand it over to you, Brian.
Thank you, Felix. Yeah, for me, it's good morning, depending on where you are. Good day to you. So Surrey is one of Canada's most diverse and fastest growing cities. It welcomes approximately 1,500 new residents per month, with a projected population of 600,000 in the next few years. You'll see in the top right corner that the future lives here is the city's tagline, and it's quite an appropriate one, given that 1 in 4 of our residents are under the age of 19. From a diversity lens across all municipalities in the province of British Columbia, Surrey has the highest urban Indigenous population, and it's located on the unceded traditional territory of the Coast Salish peoples, including the Semiahmoo, Katzie, and Kwantlen First Nations. 43% of all Surrey residents are immigrants, with 34% speaking a primary language other than English in their home. Surrey is also the province's primary destination for refugee settlements, with these residents arriving from more than 50 separate countries worldwide. So Surrey's vast geographical footprint, diverse demographic, and rapid growth really means that it faces many of the same safety challenges of other urban centers. As such, the city's strategic approach to community safety has continued to evolve over the years in order to respond to its changing needs. One particular safety issue that has garnered considerable media coverage in the Metro Vancouver region is gang violence. And based on where Surrey is situated in this region, it is not uncommon for gang activity to take place in Surrey, despite law enforcement advising that many gang members actually live in other cities. Nonetheless, with gun violence becoming a growing safety concern, a task force on gang violence prevention was coordinated by the City of Surrey in 2017. This involved various levels of government, partner agencies, researchers, and community members, and resulted in 6 key recommendations. Now, these recommendations I've kind of pared down for size, but rather than read them out loud, I'm just going to give you 30 seconds to digest them at a high level. So just go ahead and quickly read those because it'll make sense as I proceed. So as the city was moving ahead with implementing responses that satisfied these 6 recommendations, there was significant promise and optimism. For example, with the support of the task force, the province's Organized Crime Response Agency, Combined Forces Special Enforcement Unit of British Columbia, secured additional funding and was in the process of transitioning its gang intervention and exiting pilot program to a permanently funded resource, which it is today. Surrey's Inadmissible Patron Program was preparing for a December 2018 launch, and it would now give police the authority to remove gang members from participating businesses such as restaurants and bars. And this is because their criminal lifestyle poses a threat to staff and other patron safety. Finally, the design of a comprehensive plan to work upstream and target gang prevention efforts at youth and families through a neighborhood-based, culturally sensitive, multi-agency approach was underway. Sadly, in November 2018, Surrey residents endured a tragic setback. Despite not being known to police or believed to be connected to gang life, 2 Surrey teenagers were murdered by gunshot. Heartache and anger filled the community, and a rally of thousands was held outside of City Hall to call on everyone to do their part to put a stop to this senseless gang violence that was plaguing the region. This rally reinforced that government, partners, and the general community were in agreement that something new and innovative was needed to enhance existing gang prevention programming. 2 months later, in January 2019, a press release was hosted at Surrey City Hall, formally launching a first-of-its-kind multi-agency approach to addressing youth gang involvement. The Surrey Anti-Gang Family Empowerment or SAFE program was established as the city's response to the first 3 of the 6 recommendations I shared with you earlier. So as mentioned, my name is Brian Acebo. I'm the Community Safety Manager for the City of Surrey, and I have the privilege of overseeing the SAFE program and sharing about it with you today. So other than what I've shared with you already, just high level, SAFE is a proactive, evidence-based approach to preventing and addressing youth gang involvement. It is comprised of 11 individual programs delivered by 10 partners using more than $7.5 million over 5 years. In addition to disrupting pathways to youth gang involvement, SAFE's overarching goal is to build positive life skills and increase connections between young people and their family, school, and community. The City of Surrey is leading SAFE through my team, the Community Safety Section, but effective service delivery would not be possible without the buy-in and collaboration from each of the agencies you see on this slide. The majority of these partners are SAFE-funded partners, but those that are non-funded have been included because they participate directly in one of the 11 SAFE programs. So altogether, this team of professionals span federal, provincial, and municipal government, law enforcement, education, and the not-for-profit sectors. To give you a better understanding of how SAFE is meeting half of the Gang Task Force recommendations, allow me to briefly highlight each of its 11 programs. To start, we have the SAFE Center, which is intentionally situated at the heart of this wheel image, which outlines all 11 programs. And this is because it is where SAFE-related governance, research, reporting, and evaluation is based out of. It also serves as a collaboration hub where professionals can book space at no cost to host trainings, workshops, focus groups, and just professional collaboration meetings. Although the SAFE Center was forced to close in March 2020 due to the pandemic, it reopened in the summer and remains open, albeit at a reduced occupancy in order to be compliant with the physical distancing expectations. Including in-person and virtual meetings, in its first 16 months of operation, the SAFE Center has hosted just shy of 3,600 participants across nearly 300 functions aimed at enhancing community safety in Surrey. One of the SAFE programs that takes place within the SAFE Center is the Children and Youth At-Risk Table, or CHART. CHART involves a team of 16 partner agencies meeting weekly to identify vulnerable 6 to 19-year-olds for the express purpose of developing and implementing tailored intervention plans for these individuals and their families. For each case, CHART tracks up to 100 risk factors and sees an average of 3.4 partner agencies working together to support the youth and family. As shown earlier, a key recommendation of the Gang Task Force was to implement a situation table where professionals can collaboratively refer at-risk children and families. CHART was the response. Some of the high-level data that CHART captures is included in this screenshot on the slide. The average age of a CHART case is 14, with the majority of cases identifying as male. If you recall, another recommendation of the task force was neighborhood-specific programming. If you look at the graph with the gold-colored horizontal bars, you'll see a breakdown of CHART cases based on neighborhood. And it's not surprising that the 3 neighborhoods with the most CHART cases were the same 3 neighborhoods that were focused on when designing SAFE programming. Having the capacity to manipulate data variables such as neighborhood, age, and gender, amongst others, can be quite useful in identifying trends in who we're servicing or under-servicing. And this has helped us to divert existing resources to those that need it most, as well as guide the pursuit of additional funding streams through grants, for example, that may help fill in identified gaps. And while partners converge at the SAFE Center for CHART each week, there are 9 public-facing SAFE programs that are providing services directly to children, youth, and their families. And one of these programs is the South Asian Family Strengthening Team, which is intended to increase parent-child connection while helping to build better communication skills, behavioral management skills, and positive relationships. It operates support groups for mothers and fathers who have at-risk youth and provides one-to-one support so youth can learn skills on how to manage behavior and communicate better. The team will support clients from any neighborhood, but was designed to have a heavier focus on the neighborhood of Newton based on assessing a lack of services for the South Asian community, which is heavily represented in this populated town center. The High-Risk Youth Justice Program focuses on goal-oriented planning and education through one-to-one youth mentorship. This outreach-based program is available to youth of all backgrounds and is designed to strengthen positive relationships at home, school, and in the community so that youth are empowered to avoid the lure of gangs. The Family and Youth Resource Support Team, or FIRST, involves a police officer paired with 2 youth counselors in an outreach car. FIRST responds to crisis or intervention requests based on police tips and referrals. They provide home and school visits and perform targeted community outreach as well. FIRST encourages healthy attachment to family, school, and the community by identifying issues early and making referrals to counseling, recreation, and other relevant services. The Intercultural Family Intervention Program is an outreach-based counseling service that can support children, youth, and their families in their homes and is not limited by standard working hours. The goal of this program is to strengthen youth and parent relationships, connect families to resources, and provide practical assistance, such as completing forms and navigating systems, which can be particularly challenging for newcomers. The Female Gang Intervention Program provides intensive one-to-one trauma and relationship-based support, specifically for female youth connected to the gang lifestyle. The program is also designed to support girls in exiting unhealthy, sexually exploitative relationships by helping them to recognize warning signs and raise their feelings of self-worth. The Peer Leadership Program empowers students who have overcome adversity to become positive role models for their younger peers. High school-aged leaders mentor vulnerable elementary students in order to help them transition to the stress of high school life. Moving from that big fish in a small pond of elementary school to a small fish in a big pond of being the youngest in the high school. With support from adult staff, these peer mentors provide recreational opportunities while cultivating positive life skills and secure attachment to school, which we know is an extremely effective protective factor. The Caregiver Education and Clinical Counseling Program supports parents and caregivers of at-risk young people and is the only SAFE program solely focused on adults. The goal of this program is to provide education and counseling to those in caregiver roles so that they can better understand their children's challenges and work on developing healthier communication strategies. Because clinical counseling for youth and families is often expensive, those without extended health benefits must turn to low to no cost options. Free counseling options, however, typically have wait lists of several months, which is not conducive to responding to immediate needs. Since underlying issues such as trauma, domestic violence, and substance abuse can be risk factors for gang involvement, these need a more rapid response. So 2 of our SAFE partners are providing clinical counseling directly with children, youth, and parents, both individually and through family sessions. And these skilled counselors support clients in overcoming adversity, strengthening connections to one another, and making healthier decisions. One of these 2 partners also brings a cultural lens to the forefront, including the option for sessions to take place in a variety of spoken languages other than English. And last, but certainly not least, is the Youth Hub for Cooperative Enterprise. This unique program endeavors to engage newcomer and racialized youth by introducing them to the business world. Adult mentors provide resources, technology, space, and food so that participants can design, market, and operate their own democratic businesses or co-ops, which form a larger network or hub. These co-ops are continued for years by these budding entrepreneurs until they can become legitimate independent businesses. And over the last year, they've grown from 3 to 13 co-ops, which is really remarkable. So after a rundown of the 11 SAFE programs, you may be wondering what this collective has actually been able to accomplish thus far. Well, SAFE conducts tri-annual activity reporting to our funder, Public Safety Canada. However, the impact of the overall program will not be formally evaluated until 2024, when the 5 years of funding wraps up. Until then, here is what I can share as far as outcomes. 15 months into SAFE, we know that programming has collectively extended support to nearly 1,300 children and youth, as well as over 230 parents and caregivers. Our goal is to support 4,700 young people alone by the end of our 5 years of funding. I'm pleased to share that we are on track because as of SAFE's quarter mark, we have reached 27% of this target. In addition to that, chart data allows us to draw 3 main conclusions. First, SAFE is applying the right approach to service delivery. We know this because researchers have identified that the experience of trauma is a key characteristic amongst youth who join gangs. Those who have been victimized are particularly vulnerable because they're seeking acceptance, belonging, and safety. With 130 of the first 198 chart cases having experienced victimization, SAFE's trauma-informed approach to intervention through services such as clinical counseling is key to preventing negative behaviors and criminal affiliation. Conclusion number 2 is that SAFE's original target audience is, in fact, being engaged. We know this because chart data has determined that 79% of total cases are vulnerable for gangs based on the presence of one or more strong gang indicators, such as possessing large sums of money and being connected to drug trafficking. And finally, conclusion number 3, and most important, risk for gang involvement is being reduced for the majority of clients. As of the end of June, 108 of the total 198 cases accepted at chart were closed, with 64% being concluded as connected to one or more services. This positive conclusion type essentially means that 69 children and youth have already experienced a significant de-escalation in risk for gang involvement as a result of SAFE services. But perhaps you're more convinced by the qualitative than the data. So meet Mike, one of these 69 success stories. Mike was a 12-year-old senior in elementary school, known for participating in class, being a role model for his peers, and enjoying healthy activities such as playing basketball after school with friends. However, in the last several weeks, Mike's behavior has changed. Mike has been seen at the local recreation center during school hours, hanging out with older high school-aged youth. One day, rec center staff see Mike and his friends smoking marijuana in front of the rec center. A few days later, staff witness Mike damaging a window, so they call police. Upon police arrival, staff share their concern about Mike's recent change in behavior. They want to support Mike, but his behavior means they cannot welcome him to the rec center. Instead, they work with the police to complete a chart referral. When Mike's case is brought forward at the following chart meeting, some service providers acknowledge being aware of Mike and his family. They identify that the family is struggling financially and the children are dealing with some past trauma. As a result of chart intervention, Mike's family is connected to a social worker and referred to individual and family counseling. Mike himself is connected to an outreach worker for one-on-one mentorship. And this positive adult helped arrange a meeting between Mike and rec center staff, allowing Mike to apologize for his behavior and agree to volunteer to make amends. Mike returned to school full-time and also returned to engaging in healthy activities with his same aged peers. Services for his mom and younger sister were also coordinated as a result of being raised at Chart. So Mike's story is merely one safe success story and exemplifies the importance of a team approach to neutralizing risk. I can tell you that SAFE is a well-regarded program with lots of interest locally and nationally, purely due to its innovative approach. From the city's perspective, SAFE has the full support and confidence of Mayor and Council, as well as senior management, in making a difference in the lives of our residents. A couple of months ago, I had the opportunity to sit down with our mayor to share some of SAFE's early outcomes, and he was so pleased with our progress that I was invited to present about SAFE at a virtual city council meeting in the summer. Now, being 2020, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the pandemic and what this has meant for SAFE these past 7 or so months. Upon learning that summer university student co-op placements were COVID canceled, we hired 2 of these master's students to conduct research that directly complemented the SAFE program. In order to help us prepare for an anticipated second wave of COVID, which just this week has been officially announced by our provincial health officer based on the number of rising positive cases, one of the research streams focused on reviewing best practices across Canada for supporting clients during the pandemic. This research revealed 5 best practices, which I'll rapid fire through for you. Many of the successes in overcoming barriers to service resulted from professional collaboration, whether adapting existing programs, developing new ones, or providing technology and emergency assistance. Professional collaboration and flexibility has been key nationwide in effectively supporting vulnerable populations during the pandemic. Research also revealed that gaps in service can be particularly detrimental to at-risk youth, exacerbating existing risk factors. Sadly, domestic violence rates and suicide attempts amongst Canadian youth have both seen an uptick since the pandemic, with organized crime having the potential to swoop in to fill financial and physical security needs. Emphasizing a rapid response will help minimize gaps in service and insulate youth from gang susceptibility. The disruption in service caused by COVID presents an opportunity to use client engagement to tailor programs to changing needs. Many of the detrimental impacts of COVID, from mental health to disruptions to education, affect youth disproportionately. Using technology or other creative ways to give youth a voice in the design and delivery of services that ultimately benefit them will generate greater buy-in and effectiveness. Having the technology required to access remote services was identified as a major barrier and the largest obstacle to ensuring services are provided equitably. Computers, cell phones, and internet access can be lifelines for at-risk youth and their families. Soliciting donations then, whether financially or in the form of used laptops and phones, is a tangible way to connect the necessary technology to those in need. Lastly, while much of the focus on the impacts of COVID has rightfully been on the recipients of services, professionals are also experiencing major disruptions to their work and personal lives. And since we are not very effective at helping others if we aren't in a good place to begin with, self-care should be emphasized through, for example, self-care plans and flexible work schedules. These best practices were quite interesting to me for a couple of reasons. One, with schools closed in April and May, and of course, some went back in June, but of course over the summer, combined with many services going virtual, high-risk youth and families were not being checked in with as regularly. For one neighborhood, this idle time and lack of supervision seems to have accounted for an increase in youth mischief over the spring and summer, which culminated in a scary scenario last month where police were assaulted by a group of youth. Now, I am not blaming COVID for this incident, but interestingly enough, one youth involved in the incident was flagged as having numerous police interactions over the spring and summer, but very few prior. And when did the very first of this series of incidents with police occur. March 2020, coincidentally, the same time the COVID-induced lockdown of schools, community centers, and the like took place. Fortunately, since this swarming event, things have calmed significantly in the area, and I hypothesize that this is at least partially related to the fact that school resumed the very same week as this police incident, reinforcing the importance of structure and supervision for our young people. And even though youth issues have subsided in this neighborhood since this event, we are well aware that the risk factors didn't resolve magically on their own. And this is why earlier this week, 5 SAFE partners commenced a coordinated 5-day-a-week strategic response to this community during the after-school critical hours of 3 to 6 p.m. The second reason I find the pandemic research we conducted in the summer intriguing is because SAFE partners were, in fact, applying these best practices before we knew that they were best practices. Allow me to explain. CHART meetings shifted to virtual in March and have stayed that way since, yet partner participation has remained stable, and CHART's value has actually increased. I say this because high-risk cases have been reviewed at a greater rate than prior to COVID, and CHART continues to provide a weekly platform for professionals to work around barriers and collaborate to serve vulnerable clients. For example, Come Let's Talk was one of 3 virtual parent groups implemented to overcome the social distancing barriers presented by COVID. It continues to involve 5 SAFE partners co-facilitating an anonymous weekly group in Punjabi for South Asian parents. By the end of September, the group supported 183 participant drop-ins over 22 weeks, with each session covering a theme such as stress management. In addition to the 3 virtual parent groups, there were even more programs that went virtual for youth. For example, paid youth employment and life skills programs. The silver lining here was that the virtual nature of these groups actually allowed for an increased number of participants compared with a traditional classroom delivery, which carries a cap. The range of food security options promoted by partners at CHART was really impressive. 4 separate partners implemented programs to supplement families with food hampers and grocery store gift cards, including pickup and home delivery options. At their peak, these programs collectively averaged a weekly distribution of over 9,000 free meals to needy families. The last COVID workaround I will highlight, there are more, but I'll just focus on these ones, is connecting needy families to necessary technology. This past school year, the Surrey School District offered less privileged students decommissioned iPads for keeps, as well as loaner laptops to assist with online learning in June. Because e-learning cannot happen offline, they partnered with a local telecommunications company to install complimentary internet access for select families until the end of the school year. This allowed numerous students to complete their studies when they otherwise would not have been able to. So if anything, 2020 has demonstrated that professional collaboration is more important than ever when supporting vulnerable populations, and we really are safer and stronger together. And with that, I would like to thank you all for the opportunity to share about the SAFE program and to be a part of the Safer Cities Challenge. I want to also thank the Canadian Municipal Network on Crime Prevention for connecting the City of Surrey to this opportunity and for helping to raise SAFE's profile.